Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Marvel's Agents of MACE. Today we're going to be discussing top 5 Marvel movies, bottom 5 Marvel movies, and we'll be discussing a show that kind of popped up out of nowhere. So you'll have to wait till the end to find out about that, though. Won't give it away. Today with me, I have Elisa and Luke, and I don't really know who wants to go first. But we can just kind of jump in.
I have a question before we dive in.
Oh, sure.
Because this was really bothering me since I had to miss the last episode. Were y'all as frustrated as I was that they didn't actually introduce Ragnarok?
Yes.
In regards with the character, because when they announced it, that's all I was thinking is, holy crap, we are going to get a movie with Thor versus Ragnarok. Yes. Which essentially is the clone of Thor. So you're basically going to see Thor fight Thor, because that was such a big part in Civil War. If you look at the book, that was when I don't know if that's when Ragnarok was introduced. We can fact check that, but I do know that Ragnarok was on one of the teams, and you see them fight, and I was really hyped for that.
So we can we'll fact check it, but I'm pretty sure Ragnarok was created by Mr. Fantastic.
Correct.
And as a way to combat Thor, because Thor was on the other side of the thing, so it was kind of their way of being like, well, we have a Thor too. But when that movie was coming out, I had a moment where I was like, oh, how cool would it be if Ragnarok shows up and we do get to see like Thor fight robot Thor, basically. But since it didn't come up in Civil War, and it didn't really seem like they were going to get the Fantastic Four, it would be weird to introduce him in some other way. So, I mean, maybe we'll get him eventually, but I don't know. I felt like by the time the movie came out, I wasn't super thinking he was going to show up. So it wasn't a surprise that he didn't.
Yeah. One surprise here, but it is one of those like big wish list items. I'd be curious to see if like they would want to do a series on that. But anyway, I know we're kind of steering off topic here, but like when we had initially talked about this, that's all I was thinking about. This is what I wanted to talk about, because that was such a big moment for me. I still like love the film, but that was like one of those like, oh, this would be so awesome if this is what we get.
If only.
Come on, Marvel, you can do it.
They're getting more properties. They're buying more stuff. As much as people say, like, don't let Disney be a monopoly, it's like, nah, let them be a monopoly, and then they'll own everything, and we don't have to worry about it.
Thor versus Harry Potter in 5 years.
Oh, man, I'd watch that.
If someone was like, please give us Spider-Man in the Invincible series on Prime.
That would be great.
Because if you've not seen the show, like the animation does kind of resemble the one of the Spider-Man animated series.
Yeah.
It would fit in perfectly, and I think that would be that'd be kind of rad if you just have Peter Parker just shows up like, hey guys, what you doing? Oh, you got powers. That's so cool. What are you fighting?
Yeah, but I want Tom Holland Peter Parker.
Oh yeah, if they could do that.
Super fanboy Peter Parker.
Yeah, I've heard about you guys.
It was Tom Holland's birthday this week, and Anthony Mackie posted happy 14th birthday, Tom Holland.
Totally missed that one. Oh, I didn't even dive into that. All I was obsessed with on that was film Twitter were on the edge of their seats, because I think everyone expected we were going to get a teaser for No Way Home on Tom Holland's birthday. And so many people were like up late at night the night before, like not making threatening things, but it was just kind of like, come on, like don't let us down. Like, we need to get this trailer. I'm gonna go crazy. And so of course we didn't get it. And then today it's like, are we gonna get it today? And they're just basically flooding Twitter with like gifs of Tom Holland.
I think we'll get it with Black Widow.
Yeah.
That would make the most sense for sure. Unless they do something with Loki, would be kind of cool. That'd be a surprise. But even with, they just, if you saw the image the other day, they Chris Hemsworth posted an image for wrapping up filming for Thor, the next Thor film. I think they finished filming. So it'd probably be too early. It would be so cool if we got some little tease from Loki for the next Thor film. That would make a little bit more sense, but maybe too early for that.
I was gonna say we got the very, very first video of Loki when they had been filming for literally like 2 weeks, because they had that Super Bowl spot that had the little clip of WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then they showed. Granted, it was about 3 seconds of footage,
Sure.
but they still had just a tiny bit of Loki, and I completely flipped and screamed, and my husband was like, "What is wrong with you?"
I see. I am super on board with Loki being, or these, not even just Loki, but like these Disney series being a catalyst for expanding the MCU. So, I think Luke, I think you posted on Facebook the meme that was like Marvel saying that, we're not going to get other Spider-Men. It's just, that's not going to happen. And then it was like everyone else. And so that's what I keep thinking too, especially because both of them, both Andrew and
Toby.
Tobey Maguire, both of them have like said like, no, we're not doing anything. And it's like, I mean, that doesn't sound like you're not doing anything. That sounds like you are doing something.
Right.
So I could see them showing up maybe in Loki if they don't want to make them show up. Like if they really are saying they're not going to be in No Way Home, I could see them maybe putting them in Loki so that it's like on the side, it's fan service enough for all of us that are like, more Spider-Man. But it's also, they don't have to expand on it. They could just be like, Loki's flying through time and space and he passes through these 2 other universes where there are spider people, and that's that.
That'd be interesting. I didn't even like look into this, with the whole Doctor Strange and the multiverse of madness. Like, what starts the multiverse of madness?
Yeah.
What's the origin of that? Is Loki? Could that be the end of Loki? Is he's doing whatever he does? Time hopping creates this multiverse of madness, and that's what leads into Doctor Strange. I mean, all of that would make sense. It'd be super cool to see, for sure.
That was something that the head writer seemed to be kind of hinting at, because the head writer of Loki is the same guy who wrote the screenplay for Multiverse of Madness, a guy named Michael Waldron. And he said in some of this press that they've been doing that the Multiverse of Madness, he said, might be about cleaning up some of the messes that Loki makes in his series. And it would make a lot of sense if he's jumping through different timelines and possibly universes in his show. Then it would make sense for Doctor Strange to be working with Wanda to try to get things back on track.
Yeah.
So could be.
Just give us. We just need Matt Murdock and Loki.
Yes, please.
And that I feel like how much do we as fans have to say it? Like, look, Disney, Marvel made these other shows that were in the same universe as the movies, and then were just essentially abandoned. They were like, no, forget it. But it's like, but they were part of it. The same with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, granted, that show got weird by the end. It was still like, the first season, they're showing clips from Avengers. They've got Phil Coulson in it the whole time. So you're like, why are you working so hard to separate yourself from these things that you've already basically shown us are in the same universe? So with this multiverse of madness, this is giving us a chance, same with this Loki show, to at least tie in those other properties and be like, oh, hey, remember this? Everybody wanted to see Matt Murdock. Here he is. Loki popped into his office on accident.
Right.
There's Matt Murdock. There's Foggy. And then he went next door and Jessica Jones punched him, and then he went to another universe. Like, I don't know, just like give it to us. Like, this is your
Sure.
chance to give it to us without having any like strings attached, because they can just be like, Loki made all these timelines, and then in Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange comes and cinches all the timelines back into one. And we never have to see those alternate timelines again, but at least they acknowledged them.
Yeah. So I don't know if either of you are familiar with Boss Logic. Not to get confused with Logic, the musician. If you follow me on Instagram, I usually share a lot of his stuff. But this guy, he's just an artist, and most of all the stuff he made is starting out as just like things that he would want to see, as like if they take this anime or this superhero or this show and modernize it. So he started doing all that. Well, that got the attention. So I know he has worked with, I believe, Marvel and DC on some things. So he shares like all of these crazy images that would show, like he did one recently where you could, like, it was from the viewpoint of looking down a puddle, but you see Matt Murdock's cane, but in the reflection of the puddles, you see Spider-Man swinging. So he teases like all of these things. And granted, most of them are just like fan stuff, but some of these lead into something real. So I wouldn't sleep on that, because a lot of his stuff that people thought were just fan based ended up being like actual like posters for
Right.
Marvel or for DC. Like I think when the DC world, he got in with Shazam and Black Adam coming up. He's doing
Okay.
a lot of promotional things for that. I can't remember what he's done with Marvel. It may have been, he may have did things with Daredevil. I can't remember 100%. He's done a lot of stuff Loki related, but I don't know if that was all fan, like just from him being a fan.
Right. Well, I mean, that would be cool. We don't really know a whole lot about No Way Home. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I can't even tell you where I think this movie would begin.
I think it needs to begin that it's going to be a 3+ hour movie.
I mean, yeah. But also, I just feel like Spider-Man is such like a rich vein for them to mine, like the Sinister Six. I mean, that's 6 big villains right off the bat that Spider-Man has. And then they all form together to make their own villain group that also tries to beat him up. And it's like, well, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, why
Yeah.
aren't there more Spider-Man movies slated, or at least like, I don't know, give us like a villain a movie.
Sure. But it's like, if the William Dafoe thing is true, at this point, I'm just like, if that's true, just go ahead and put Tom Hardy's Venom in this.
Well, and they
Like,
own that, right?
yeah,
The next
yeah.
Venom movie will be a Disney movie, correct?
No, I think it's still part of like a Sony Disney partnership.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think they've said they're not. I think they have full intention of trying to do a movie with these two characters together, Tom Holland and Hardy,
Okay.
which would be really interesting.
Yeah.
But at this point with No Way Home, like, why not?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
everyone else is supposed to be in this,
Throw 'em in there.
minus Gwen Stacy, she basically said a hard no, like, no, I'm not in that.
But maybe she's just a really good actress.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything from the other actor that played Goblin.
Franco?
Oh, and
What's his name?
James Franco? Or do you
No,
mean? Do you
well,
mean
not
from
well. James
mean-
Franco would be cool, but I'm talking about from the
the
Amazing
Andrew
Spider-Man.
Garfield one? I don't know that guy's
I
name.
can't remember his name off the top of my head. Be curious to see if he made an appearance. Because they already said what, Rhino and Lizard.
Yeah.
So,
I'm telling you, they're keeping us in the dark in the best way and in the worst way.
but we kind of know like all of these people are gonna get like a total of like 3 to 5 seconds each.
Oh yeah. Well, and we know that in like the month before the movie comes out, all of this is going to be leaked, and
I think that'll be based on Holland. Holland just can't take any more new cracks.
he just uploads the script. Well, we went on a little bit of a tangent to start, but we will go go into we'll start with um top five Marvel movies, and I guess we'll just go one at a time, and then kind of discuss a little bit more about like why those movies are in our top five, because if I remember correctly, we have a lot of spillover with each other. Yeah. So for my top five movies, number one has to be Guardians of the Galaxy for me. I felt like it opened up a brand new, or like a whole new world of superhero cinema. Um, so that's probably my number one. Ragnarok's number two, which I feel like wouldn't have been the way that it was without Guardians of the Galaxy. So that's kind of like a follow up of that. Endgame is my number three because, oh my gosh, everyone in the Marvel Universe is in one movie together. Black Panther's my number four because that is just a great movie. So many good characters. The plot is amazing. I loved that whole movie. My last one is Ant-Man, which I know may be a hot take because I know a lot of people didn't like Ant-Man, but Paul Rudd is so funny. And I feel like funny Ant-Man is the best because in the comics, Ant-Man is like not funny. I don't know that he's not supposed to be funny, but I don't know. He's just kind of like blah. He's Ant-Man. He comes in, he turns into a tiny guy, and then he turns big. Like, I don't know. There's no like thing with Ant-Man. So them making Ant-Man like funny, there's like the giant ant. Like, I loved that movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. They did a lot of cool things with it.
They probably saw that and knew like we've got to give personality here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Ant-Man's highish on, like, it's not in my top, but it's up there on my list. I enjoy Ant-Man.
Well, you want to go next, Luke?
Yeah, I can go next. I'll just go based off of what we shared. So, like, for me, the top is a combo with Infinity War and Endgame because I just think it's fantastic. I mean, this is the conclusion of all of these characters that we spent many, 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 many years with. So we're already invested in all of these characters, the actors, the story. This is, the whole Thanos Infinity Gauntlet saga. So yeah, it's just a fantastic conclusion. After that, for me, it's Civil War. I just really love Civil War. This is the intro we get to see with Spider-Man. We got to see Black Panther as well. So you're getting a taste of new characters. You're also getting this internal conflict. And this is one of those biggest moments where, like, if they goofed on this, it could really hurt everything. But they got it right. And that's just what makes it very, very special. Next up is Iron Man. I mean, Iron Man's what really started it. Robert Downey Jr. is just fantastic. Iron Man overall is just, I can rewatch that film. It's so rewatchable. I definitely watch that one at least twice a year. Then after that, it's Guardians of the Galaxy. Similar notes to you. I mean, this just opened up. This was something I had a big question mark on because I wasn't familiar with these characters. And when I heard the premise, I was just like, ooh, this could be really weird. And just fell in love with it. Like, this was just, these characters are incredible. And then after that is the Winter Soldier, because I think Winter Soldier, I think people view the Winter Soldier as like the Empire Strikes Back of the whole MCU. So many fans really praise this film. So many put this as like the number one on their list, and I think that's how they view it. Is like, this is a solid film. Captain America's at the best. Winter Soldier, bringing him back was just an incredible moment. So really fun film.
All right, Elisa.
Okay, then. Okay, so like you guys are saying, we have a lot of overlap. My number one was Thor Ragnarok. And whenever I was putting my list together, I had to think about how I felt like the very first time I saw all the movies in the MCU. And with Ragnarok, not only does it have like a very different feel than I think any other one of the Marvel movies. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy is probably closest, but I think it's very, very individual. But I remember walking out of the theater thinking, I need to tell everybody I know to go watch that movie. Because it was so great. It was so weird and funny. And of course, I love that particular set of characters a lot. So I had to give that one the edge over my number two, which was an Infinity War Endgame double feature. I can't separate them into two movies. I'm sorry. It's one story. There was a really long 1-year intermission. But that one, there's not another, I guess, two movies in the Marvel Universe that match those for spectacle and character moments. And it would be so easy for those to feel bloated or overlong or just ridiculous. And they don't. It's some kind of miracle that they were able to pull off these two movies with this many characters, this many plot points, and providing a satisfying conclusion to I don't even know how many movies led up to it. I don't have time to count. It was kind of a tough call between 1 and 2. But again, I had to give Ragnarok that edge. Number 3, picked Civil War for same reasons that you guys were saying. It's another fun one where we get everybody kind of together. We get our first experience with Tom Holland as Spider-Man, which is a really big highlight of that one. Number 4 was Avengers for me. I mean, it's another one I had to think, okay, back in the day, first time you saw Avengers, what'd you walk out of that theater feeling like? And like, it was so awesome. They were all finally together. And I will admit here in front of you nice people, I was dreading Avengers for the longest time. Because whenever I talk about my number 5 film here in a minute, I was so on board with the characters that I knew would be in the Avengers, except for maybe ones I wasn't that familiar with. Like, I didn't really know that much about Captain America before these movies started coming out. But he sounded really dorky. I was afraid it was going to be like... I was afraid it's going to be like the MCU's version of Superman, which I guess in some ways he kind of is. But that bothered me. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be such a drag. There's no way they're going to be able to pull this off. And then they did. And by that point, I had seen all of them. I was like, oh, yeah, I love Captain America. I'm so excited to see him. But my number 5 was Iron Man. And that's because I remember whenever they first announced that they were going to have a separate Marvel studio and be releasing movies based on the comic books. And I was like, and the first one they're doing is Iron Man? What? And then they also announced that, Robert Downey Jr. was playing him. And at that point of my life, I'm sorry, past Elisa was an idiot. I mostly knew Robert Downey Jr. for going to prison while he was on Ally McBeal. So I did not know what a talented and charismatic actor he was. I just was like, okay, they are really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. But that first week, whenever it came out and it made like $80 million, I was like, maybe it's pretty good. And so I went like the second week that it was out, and it blew my mind. It was so good. Like, it had really good action beats, really good humor. I walked out of there fully in love with Robert Downey Jr., which has not since abated in any way. I went and saw Incredible Hulk later that summer because it had that 2-minute Robert Downey Jr. cameo in it. And so, yeah, that was the one that started all. I was like, okay, they might actually have something here. And I still really like that one. I think it holds up well. We watched it again several weeks ago together because Mason was like, oh, that's going to be bad. We're going to make fun of it. And we didn't. Because it's still a really fun movie.
Yeah. I will always be a little bit... I mean, I really like Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. Mm-hmm. But I will always be a little bit bummed that they like shoehorned this Edward Norton, Bruce Banner in to the MCU, and then immediately were like, no, never mind.
Norton must be difficult.
Clearly.
I've looked into some of the stories around that. I know we're kind of steering off topic again, but I like the Incredible Hulk. I like it. If you're a fan of the Hulk, they did a great job setting up like major villains for the Hulk that they have not really gone back and done anything
Tim
with.
Blake Nelson.
So, yeah. So, maybe there's still... I don't know. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the Hulk moving forward, because the Hulk has some cool villains that they've not really tapped deep into. So, yeah.
Well, it is weird to me that we have 3 Iron Man movies, but we don't have a single Mark Ruffalo Hulk movie.
Yeah. Curious around that. I wonder... Yeah, I'm curious about
Give
that.
him an MCU show.
Yeah. Just do a Planet Hulk and make it a show.
I'd watch that. More Korg.
Yeah.
Let Taika Waititi do the show, and it'd be Planet Hulk.
There you go.
Yes, please. Shoot it like a mockumentary. Oh my gosh, that would be the best. Well, so it's really easy to talk about good Marvel movies. I know there are people out there that don't like comic book movies, but whatever. You're probably not listening to this podcast, so
And they're wrong.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, they are. But I feel like Marvel does such a good job at making these movies that are not just fun, but they're also visually interesting. And I think that's one of the things that I really liked about Civil War. Like you said, it was one of those movies where like we're getting to see a actual conflict that would happen if there were really superheroes. We're getting to see how this conflict is affecting people worldwide. And there's just constantly something going on. So you're never getting bored, even when they're boring you with the details, which is what I think they then did again for Infinity War and Endgame, where, yes, it would be a large chunk of your day to sit down and watch those movies back to back. But if you did, I don't know that there would be a point where you would be like, oh, like, okay, I'm going to go get a drink or I'm going to go to the bathroom or something, because it is like there's always something happening that's getting your attention, or at least the like lower moments of the movie are still interesting enough or important enough to draw you in. So it's like, okay, I got to stick here. I got to watch this whole thing without moving. But having said all that, now comes the difficult part. What are your bottom 5 Marvel movies? And we'll go in reverse order. So we'll start with you, Elisa.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll start with number 5. I work my way up to the worst / number 1. Okay. My number 5 was Captain Marvel. And I want to be very clear. I'm not saying any of these are bad movies. I'm just saying they're maybe not as good as the others, or I can see them going in a different direction and maybe being a little bit better. In the case of Captain Marvel, it could have been a lot of fun. And I mean, it wasn't like devoid of fun, but I mean, come on. We had Nick Fury in the 90s. We had a lady superhero who hangs out with aliens. It should have, to me, felt more like a Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that than it did. And like, again, don't get me wrong. I still really enjoyed that movie, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with Captain Marvel in the future. When I was having to look at ones that maybe didn't hold up as well as the others, that was one of them. Same with my number 4, which is Doctor Strange. I love that character. I've loved him, and I've loved Benedict Cumberbatch in this role. It's just, as far as a standalone movie goes, it's just not as strong as some of the others. Sorry. I mean, again, cool moments, lots of fun stuff to enjoy. Just not on par with some of the. Number 3 was The Incredible Hulk. I'm sorry. I went and I didn't have a problem with The Incredible Hulk. I mean, I even enjoyed the villain. That was one of the things that I saw a lot of people complaining about, like, oh, the villain sucks. Not really. I mean, he just kind of feels like he wandered in from a different movie. My number 2 was Age of Ultron. And the reason why that one is ranked so high, it's not because it's like worse than any of these. It was the one that I remember being a little bit let down. I mean, of course, it was bound to be a letdown after, the Avengers and all the other ones. So there was all this hype walking into it, and then somehow it just didn't gel. And it still has some of, like, to me, some of the strongest individual scenes that we've seen, like at the beginning, whenever they're all, working together. This is the only movie where they're actually all together and working as buddies. And somehow it still just is kind of a tad little bit of a mess. And then we have the Mjolnir scene in that one that is so good. But yeah, the rest of the movie just kind of never quite gelled. And my number 1 was Iron Man 2. That's the one that I remember walking out and being like, ugh. And of course, it's partly because I loved Iron Man so much. And, I was like, okay, the first movie was great. I can't wait to see what they do with the second one. And then I remember in particular being disappointed in the way that Black Widow was portrayed in this one. Because she's just kind of like this vaguely villainous, overly sexy. Like, they didn't give us an indicator of how cool Natasha actually was. To me, she felt a little bit in this movie like set dressing, and that really irritated me. I was like, ugh, gross.
Yeah.
And of course, we moved on from that one, and a lot of great stuff happened after Iron Man 2. But that's one that, like, I don't go back and rewatch that one. I think I've maybe seen it twice. I saw it in the theater, and then once whenever it came out on, like, DVD or something, I was like, okay, well, done with that one. So, to me, most disappointing MCU movie, Iron Man 2.
Well, I do want to, I want to reiterate that these are current MCU, mainline MCU movies. We're not talking Fantastic Four. We're not talking old Spider-Man. We're not talking the worst Hulk movie ever made. Just the main movies. So
yeah, if we included those, like Blade would probably be my number one.
Oh my God, Blade's so good.
It's so good. So good.
All right, Luke, tear them up.
Real quick, before I go into this, are y'all both on Letterboxd?
I don't know.
No, you need to get on Letterboxd because this is a great plug for us that we can do. I was going to say, if anyone listening is curious, you can follow me on Letterboxd and you can see my entire list in order if you're curious where everything's ranked.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with Letterboxd, it's basically a film where you can go like view all things movies, and you can create your own list, watch lists, and you get a lot of film critics in here that are reviewing films as well, and so you can kind of give your feedback and thoughts and rankings and get all this info. Not a lot of TV shows, but they have added WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so those are both included in my list as well. Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm gonna do the same thing. So kind of starting at the top and working all the way down to the very bottom. So for me, it was Doctor Strange. I really liked Doctor Strange. I want to see more of Doctor Strange, but this one was just the villain wasn't super exciting. Didn't gel with that, but yeah, that was like the main reason there. Next on my list is Guardian of the Galaxy Volume 2. Something about this for me is just a little bit forgettable. It's a fun movie, but I don't know, there's something about it that just wasn't as special as the first film. And it's one that I just I'm not eager to go back to versus some of these other films. And then after that is Captain Marvel. Very similar, not super familiar with this character, but was excited to check out Brie Larson. But at the same time, it just, yeah, I mean, it was a fine film. It was cool seeing like set in the back because this is really kind of like before Captain America. But again, yeah, just not overly hyped about it. And the next one for me is actually Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3 ended up being a major letdown for me because I really like Iron Man. I grew up watching the animated show for Iron Man, so there's a lot of elements of Iron Man I was really looking forward to seeing that we never really got to see. The main thing being at like this point. So at this point, Iron Man 3, we've already seen him so much. Things I wanted were the multi-suits. We get to see all these various suits, but we didn't actually get to see him utilize all of them. I thought it would have been super cool if it was a villain strong enough to where we just see him changing out his suits over and over again to be able to fight. And also the villain was set up as something really, really cool, and it being a major letdown is just like this, this, I don't even know what you'd say there. It's just like this phony.
Melty
yeah.
man.
And then the bottom of the list is Thor, The Dark World. Again, I don't, it's just bottom. It's just one I'm not excited to jump back and see. If I were to watch this, it'd probably be just for the various scenes with Loki in it. I think those are probably the funnest scenes of this film. But yeah, just not crazy about this one. So that's why it's the bottom of my list.
Well, Elisa, based on some of your the faces you're making there, I feel like I'm going to disappoint you twice in my bottom five. But I'll do the same. I'll start 5, go down to the worst. So for me, I think Age of Ultron is probably my number 5. I
So disappointed.
I I get that it's an important movie, but I just feel like some of the characters in it are weakened for this movie, and it doesn't make sense, and the whole time you're like, how is the guy that's faster than bullets die to bullets? I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot in this movie that doesn't make sense, and it's kind of a running theme through my bottom movies where it's like you're taking this character that you've shown us is powerful, and then you're making it seem like they're not as powerful as before so that they're losing. And it's like, but that doesn't, you've already shown us that they're more powerful than this. Why are they now not? I don't know. That's a big bother that I have in these movies. And so I understand that that's like an important movie, but the last few times that I've watched through the Marvel movies, that one is the one that I get to, and I'm like, do I have to watch this, or can I just go? I know what happens. They beat Ultron. All right, next movie. That's why that's number 5. I think number 4 for me is going to be the first of the new Spider-Man movies. I really enjoy Tom Holland. I think he's a wonderful Spider-Man, and I think that he was great as Spider-Man in that movie, but I just felt like that movie didn't have a clear direction. It seems like the beginning of the movie, they really wanted that movie to lead somewhere like the Sinister Six. And then halfway through the movie, they were like, wait, hold on. This is the first Spider-Man movie. We can't let Spider-Man beat all these villains right now. So then they like dialed it back. And then it's like the movie ends, and here we are like supposed to feel bad for the bad guy. But also we're like, yay, Spider-Man. I don't know. I just felt like that movie didn't know what it wanted to be. And I get it, right? It was their first chance to make a Spider-Man movie. They didn't want to mess it up, but it felt like they didn't want to mess it up. So they dialed things back that they didn't need to dial back, and I don't know. For me, my number 3 movie is going to be Thor. I like the Thor movies. I really do. But I just felt like he's not Thor. He's not Thor for 90% of the movie. Like, I go to a Thor movie, want to watch Thor swing a hammer around and shock things with lightning, and he does that at the very beginning and at the very end of that movie, and then nowhere in the middle. And for almost a similar reason, Thor 2 is going to be my number 2 movie. Mostly because I did think about this a little bit, kind of like you said, Elisa, with your top 5, which you kind of thought about, like, what was the feeling I had when I walked out of that movie? And Thor 2, even watching it recently, because we just talked about it a couple weeks ago, I was like, I understand the merit of this movie, but I just don't like it. I don't like the villains. I don't like that everything is so dark. I don't like it. I don't like Thor's hair.
I know that was his most glorious hair was the Dark World.
And then I think for my number 1 least favorite Marvel movie, it would be Iron Man 3. And my reasoning is it's completely unnecessary. At least things that happen in Iron Man 2 come back later. In Iron Man 3, there's literally nothing that comes back other than that kid who shows up at his funeral,
Yep.
which like doesn't make sense because the kid's there without his parents. How did he know to show up at this funeral?
Yeah.
And Pepper has a suit, which like was teased, you could say, in Iron Man 3 when she wears the suit, even though she has super melty powers, which, by the way, never come back again. So
They were dangerous super melty powers.
Yeah, it's like it's another thing that's like even the Marvel Cinematic Universe knew that movie didn't have a place in the lineup of movies. So they just were like, oh yes, we forgot that all that happened. Don't worry about it. And like you said with the suits, I thought the suits were going to be great. I was like, oh, we're going to see all these suits. And instead, we saw like 4 fancy suits that did something different. And really, the things they did different was one of them could separate, which can't they all separate? That didn't make, why was that special? One of them was strong, which like, yeah, okay. And he had like jackhammer fists. Cool. I don't even know that I can tell you any of the other suits. Like, that was kind of it. But in the comics, he has all kinds of crazies. He's got a space suit. He's got an underwater suit. He's got a jet suit. So, yes, that's my least favorite. Only because I just feel like if I had never seen it, I wouldn't be missing it. So sorry to disappoint you, Elisa.
Just in its defense, it's a Christmas movie, which I appreciate. The little kid in it is super cute. Tony having like PTSD after Avengers, like, of course he would. Who wouldn't? I mean, he just found out aliens existed and he almost got killed. So I liked that arc for him. And again, I know I mentioned this before, but Guy Pearce in an MCU movie, that was a gift. I'm so glad that we at least got one. Like, I'm going to be forever disappointed that David Tennant was in Jessica Jones, that was the name of it, instead of one of the main films, because I think he would have been fantastic in one of the movies. And yet that will never happen now. But we did get Guy Pearce.
Well, I mean, technically it could happen because they're
trying to pretend like they don't exist because they're dirty.
Yeah, they've disowned them.
Yeah. Yeah, the PTSD thing was interesting. Like another big disappointment was like such a big arc of Tony's character is his battle with like alcohol. And you see through these films like he drinks a lot, but I know like you got to look at the audience as well. That's such a tough subject, and it's like I wanted to see them go into that arc and see him battle that internally through himself while having to fight someone else, which would have been really fascinating. But I kind of get like why they wouldn't do that.
But I almost feel like they wanted to do that, but then they were like, no, we have to have a more relatable villain. Yeah. So then they ruined the Mandarin by making him literally nothing. Yeah. And now they're having to retcon that too by making a new Ten Rings movie about the real Mandarin. So it's like everything the Marvel Universe is doing is like, sorry, we made Iron Man 3. We're fixing
slowly getting things right. Yeah.
Hope you liked your Christmas movie, Elisa.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
So one episode I would love to do at some later point is circling back to the first Iron Man, which seems like we all really enjoyed, but doing an episode based around Jon Favreau, because he directed that plus many others, so he really had a hand in like pushing this forward and setting up this universe. So huge fan of him. He's like bucket list. Would love to meet him one day. But yeah, I'd love to do an episode talking just about him and his films and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's do it. We have what? We have one more week before Loki.
Week from today, the 7th, right? Yeah. It's coming up.
Wait, it comes out next week?
Yeah, next Wednesday.
The 7th. Next Wednesday.
Geez, all right.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Dang it. I cannot get this down. Yeah. I have it written down in like 6 different places, and I still can't remember. All right. Well, so that'll be definitely what we talk about next week then is the first episode of Loki. But after the Loki series, I'm sure we'll get a tiny little break before Black Widow or whatever the next show is. Who knows? But then we'll definitely jump into a Jon Favreau episode because I agree. I think he's single-handedly saving a bunch of these these dying properties.
Oh yeah.
Well, before we go, there was an exciting show that got released on Hulu last week, I feel like. That I don't know about you guys, but I didn't even know that it was out until someone was like, "Hey, have you watched this yet?" And I was like, I didn't know it was out yet. It's kind of like they just released it and we're kind of like, wow, whatever. If people watch it, people watch it. But the M.O.D.O.K show came out on Hulu, and it was enjoyable. It wasn't a Disney Plus Marvel series at all. It didn't set up anything. It didn't have anything to do with anything. It was just Patton Oswalt as M.O.D.O.K, being Patton Oswalt as M.O.D.O.K, living a semi-depressing life as a supervillain. And it was fun. That's all I could say. It was fun.
I agree. I did manage to get through all 10 of the episodes before we recorded this episode. And I thought a lot of it was funny, and I loved all the Easter eggs and references that had all throughout it. I think it's set in a different universe than the MCU, which would explain it being on Hulu and also being really violent and sweary and inappropriate. But still, there was enough commonality, and of course references to things that are strictly in the comics and not in the movies, that I felt like it was really, really solid and interesting, and I really like Patton Oswalt. He was good in this. I'm trying to think about something I thought. Oh, like in particular, one of the jokes that I thought was funniest was there's an episode where he goes to Asgard, and the first thing that we see is Balder, who is a character in the comics and in Norse mythology, but is not in any of the movies. As far as I know, he's not in any of the TV shows either. And he gets immediately killed off after making this great big speech. And I thought that it was such a funny nod to the fact that they don't ever use Balder in anything. But
I agree. If being one that loves Easter eggs and hidden things, this show is full of them. And very rarely is there something that's hidden. 9 out of 10 times they're gonna tell you what it is, or they're gonna show you. And that's even better because then I don't have to work for it. It's oh, here it is. Here's this funny reference. And it is but there's the reference. It's the butt of a joke, or the tagline of a joke is the reference. I think in the first 2 episodes, Fin Fang Foom shows up 3 or 4 times as either a transportation device for M.O.D.O.K as he's flying on his back, or I think the first time we see him, he's literally serving food at a food cart in the villain's bar or something like that. So it's just funny. It's well, here's Fin Fang Foom is one of the most powerful entities in the Marvel universe, and here he is serving drinks at a bar for a villain's only bar, which, oh my gosh, it's just, I loved it. I loved it so much. It was just fun. It was goofy. Like I said, there's no real stakes. They're 20-minute episodes, so it's not you're dedicating an hour of your life to watching an episode. It goes by quick, but it's a fun story.
it does take on a little bit of a darker tone in the last couple of episodes, but I thought that was interesting, and I think they've already confirmed a season 2, so it's setting up, it's really clearly setting up what's gonna go down in future episodes. So I would be interested to see those.
It is very dark humor.
Are they 30-minute episodes or hour-long episodes?
I think they're 20, 25-minute episodes.
Okay, short things. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
they're syndicated TV length.
Yeah, no input from me. I have not watched this yet, but knowing that there's shorter episodes, I'll try to fit it in, and then maybe the next episode at the very beginning, I'll just give my 2 cents.
Yeah, because they're shorter.
Nice.
Like we said, it is darker comedy, and I'm
fine with that.
It gets depressing. It gets depressing, but in a funny way, if that makes sense. But yes, I would suggest anyone who hasn't seen it yet and has access to Hulu should check out M.O.D.O.K. It's fun stuff. Well, next week, it's finally here. It's finally time. It's Loki. Oh my gosh. So I was going to try and get in contact with... now I'm blanking on everyone's names. Every time I try to say anyone's names, I immediately blank on it. Loki is...
Tom?
I keep wanting to say Holland. but it's not.
Hiddleston?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to get in contact with his agent or try to find a way to get in contact with him to have him maybe come on and be like, "Ooh, Loki's changing the time of the release date for Agents of MACE," because I thought that would be just a ridiculous way to spend a little bit of time. So we'll see if that happens. It will be posted and everyone will know about it.
That'd be awesome.
And I will take this out of this episode. But if it doesn't happen, I'll leave this in, and it probably won't happen. But yes, we're going to change the release date for Agents of MACE, and we're going to move it up. Before we were releasing either at the end of the weekend or the beginning of the week. Now we're going to be releasing the episodes by the end of the week. And then that way we can stay super current and super up to date with the new episodes as they come out. So join us next week when we dive into the first episode of Loki.
Ooh.
Dramatic pause. You'd think there would be something extra in the title of the show, but no, it's just called Loki.
That's true.
And
I feel
follow
like
us on
I'm always
social.
having to differentiate between Loki the character and Loki the show, and it's just very difficult in some sentences. But yes, follow us on social. Social.
We're posting more. It's happening.
I will post my unsolicited list of top 5 non-MCU Tom Hiddleston movies.
Perfect. And then we're going to post our top 5 Jon Favreau movies.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah,
I like that one. I like that.
topical. See you all next week.